Yeah. So when you were a kid, you were doing this. Like you've been involved. So this is like the family business?
Sort of. My family business, was my mom's business actually, was safari businesses. So like you say, sit in a Land Rover, see the animals kind of thing. And they did a little bit of tourist walking safaris, but then I grew up on a farm in the outskirts of Harare, Zimbabwe. And then whenever I wasn't in school, I was on the farm, running around barefoot, catching snakes, fishing, yada, yada. And then when my mom wasn't booked up, she had this little bush plane that she used for safaris, and we'd just adventure all over Africa.
Wow.
So it was a great childhood.
That sounds amazing, but fucking terrifying.
I mean, it's like one of those things where it's what you're used to, right? I found moving to the States at age 14 and like trying to find my like place in the world and being this weird little private school kid from Africa way more terrifying than going to meet a tribe in the middle of the bush.
Really?
For sure. Yeah.
Why?
Like, I'll give you examples. Like, I always carry a pocket knife on me, right? Mm-hmm. My first day here in the States, I go to school, pull my pocket, I'm sitting in my like uniform because I went to a very proper English boarding school, pull out my pocket knife, start cutting my apple. 15 minutes later, I'm in handcuffs. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? I literally had no idea what I had done wrong, but it's because I had a knife at school. Everybody I had ever been to school with had a knife to cut their apple. Like, it was the standard thing. So here I am with like police and, you know, guns and badges, and they're throwing me in handcuffs and taking me out of the school on day one in America. And I'm like, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen. And I didn't even learn until later that day that it was because I had a pocket knife. And at no point did I think having a pocket knife was a bad thing.
So they didn't tell you?
No, they just grabbed me. There was like this whole thing, like the knife went flying. I was chained up and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And they're like, you're in big trouble. And I was like, why? And, you know, it was like little culture shock things like that to me were like something I'd done every day my whole life. And now I'm like getting thrown in juvie for it kind of thing.
When you think back about that, do you think that's just the consequences of being in a large population?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I went to school every day with a knife. There was no violence issues. There was nothing like that. But then you come here where, you know, there's stabbings and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's because, you know, I lived in a tiny country with a tiny population.
Do you think that it's possible that, I mean, it's stupid, but there's no way you could live like that over here. I mean, there's no way you can have kids with a bunch of knives.
No, I don't think so.
Not with this culture.
I don't think so at all. I think that would be terrible. And I get it now as an adult. But
nobody talked to you about it before you left the house?
No. My mom didn't know. She's from Africa. You know, she's like, here are your things.
Here's your knife,
cool,
son.
I'll put it in my
pocket.
pocket.
Make sure you sharpen it before you go to school.
Totally, man.
Wow. So you were always doing these walking safaris? You started out doing the driving ones, and then eventually you started doing the walking ones?
My family business did walking safaris. They didn't do hunting. It was all photographic. And we were in the Zambezi Valley. So Zambezi River is one of the biggest rivers in the world. So we'd do these walking safaris, and then we did canoe safaris as well, which is why I have so many hippo and croc stories, because we'd be canoeing down the Zambezi River and then taking photographs and seeing wildlife that way.
Wow. What a crazy way to grow up, man.
It was awesome.
Your relationship to wildlife is just so different than the average person in this country.
For sure. It's very intimate. Like I feel like I have, like regardless of being a scientist by trade, I feel like I have a very intimate understanding of animals because I grew up completely surrounded by them.
Now, what other countries have you explored?
I'm over 60 countries now.
Damn.
Yeah. So a lot, all for wildlife work, whether it's for the show that I do or for biology contracts before I did the show, or just because, like, for instance, when I got done with college, I was like, I had a tiny little business started in college, sold it, and was like, I'm going to travel the world and try and photograph these animals. And I went to 28 countries looking for wildlife.